Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Barbarian and this is Crusader Kings 3, and I gotta tell you that this episode, I don't think it will see us unpose at all, but we are here with King Filipe and there is so much to talk about. Trust me when I say that we don't need to unpose. King Filipe of Aquitaine and of Italy, the new ruler and the potential emperor in the west. He is in a position that is very delicate, yet very opportune, and could go either way. I have to tell you, I don't know exactly where this is going, what he has planned. I mean, I have thoughts obviously, but this will be a very, very interesting time to come. What we're going to be doing today is we will simply take a look at who he is, what he rules, so both Aquitaine and Italy, what our situation is and what we might have to do, including the church, including the Italians. And then, last but not least, we're going to take a good look at this. The Struggle of the Rus. The details of that will come at the end of this episode. I'm very excited for it because I think that that should be fairly fun and that it should really mix up what is going on over here, but that is something for the second half of this video. For starters, let's just take a look at King Filipe Elisabeth. What position is he in and who is he? Of course, he is the son of the Duke of Provence and of the Regent Elisabeth VS, now Queen Mother. Well, yeah, Queen Mother. She put him into this position. And he, surprisingly, couldn't be a better fit. Look at him. He is a brave, humble, and gregarious man. He is a king that understands dignity, that understands honor, that understands, of course, bravery, that knows that he should value the advice of others rather than being stubborn or being arrogant. And he also is willing to engage with his subjects. I assume that if there was trouble in Italy, he would invite both people to a party. And then with that, of course, try to smooth it out. He is a person that gets involved, that is extroverted, and that tries to get things done. It is a miracle, quite frankly, that this kid turned out to be, you know, the inheriting kid and to be as well adjusted as it is, because Queen Elisabeth VS herself had a lot of baggage. Yes, she was ultimately a very good character, but she stems from Prince Vea the Impaler, who was truly disturbed and deranged. And yet she turned out as well, and then she had a son who turned out even better. He even became a great fighter, you know, a blade master, skilled tactician. You can see he has a value of 21 in prowess, which is excellent. And in all of the disciplines that a king needs to be in control of, stewardship, martial, and diplomacy, he excels as well. The only thing that really puts a damper into this whole party is the fact that he is a recognized and known witch. Now, this is something that, without a doubt, creates a bit of an issue, both for him, but also the people surrounding him. Before we do anything here, I think we need to establish what does it mean to Filipe to be a witch. What did it mean to Queen Elizabeth, to Regent Elizabeth, to be a witch? And what did it mean to Prince Vea? I think the self-perception of this witch circle has changed over this... I was about to say centuries, no, has changed over the decades. When Prince Vea prayed to Akabels, he genuinely perceived witchcraft and all of this as a counter-proposal to Catholicism. Not that it is a new religion, but that it is his religion. He was excommunicated, he was ousted, he never married, he had nobody, at least not in the eyes of the church, and yet Akabels gave him wonderful lovers. Akabels gave him a rich and big family, and it was Akabels that he pleaded to give him the blessing to marry his beloved Nuña de la Rioja. It never got to that point. He fell in love with Nuña and he could never consult Akabels over it because Nuña passed away before that. Yet another failure and missed opportunity for Prince Vea, who had a very, very tough life no matter where you try to look at. However, the way he perceived this is not the way that his daughter, Regent Elizabeth perceived it. Elizabeth saw these meetings, this witchcraft, as something spiritual, as something where you take part in a rite, you connect to the spirits of the land, to the spirits of your ancestors, and then you step out, still very much Christian, but with a positive spiritual balance, if you will. I think that is how she perceived it, and, you know, a bit of a testament to this is the time that she called for a rite in Bayona, just for her and her children, right before she declared war against the king. And they did this. They took part in this rite to basically centralize the power of the region and of their ancestors, of their families, of all the Gasconera people, to centralize this all in their effort of fighting King Asna. They didn't fight King Asna in the name of Akabels. in the name of a new religion or any such thing. They did it with the support of the spirits that are all around them, while still very much being a part of Catholicism. So the way that I see witchcraft, at least in the eyes of King Filipe, is that he always experienced it from an angle that said witchcraft simply means following the local traditions. They are in line with Catholicism, it is just that they are misunderstood, and certain people will agitate against you, but believe me, they are part of what is going on. Of course, Catholicism, as it is preached and lived in Rome, disagrees. Witchcraft fundamentally, these local beliefs fundamentally are criminal. And even then, of course, it has to be highlighted, for example, that the mythology that stems from the Gaelic folks up here in the north, in the British Isles, that mythology still stayed alive. They had their own practices and rites that were very much not accepted by the church, but that is neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that when somebody says you are a witch, King Filipe, he understands witchcraft not to be spells, poisons, or curses. He understands it to be simply relying on your local ancestors, on the spirits that have guided them and that may guide you yet. I mean, in a way, I think this wolf, to a degree, might be proof of this idea. The wolf, of course, a local spirit that, is guiding this family, but the wolf in this case is much more secular than the actual Akabel's worship, which is that goat. Now, the thing still is, even if King Filipe doesn't perceive witchcraft in this way, the game, Catholicism, and the Pope clearly view witchcraft as evil magic, as something that spews out curses and leaves behind dead bodies. And I think, since we admire Pope Stephanus as much as we do, and even if you take away the court grandeur here, which might be a bit over the top, but even if you take that away, it's still a plus 60, right? It might even be a bit more. I didn't count all of the other ones individually. Since we like him this much, and since he respects and likes us, despite us being a sinner, despite us being a witch, I think there's a good chance that eventually King Filipe Elisabethae may go and ask for forgiveness. That he may go to the Pope and seek indulgences so that he can return a good and proper Christian. This could mean the end of witchcraft in this family, or well, in this line of the family, but that is something we come to later. For the moment, I just wanted to do this big tangent because I wanted to take a good roleplay look at how we perceive witchcraft, at how the outside world perceives witchcraft, and what this might do with and to King Filipe. I think he might very well get rid of this eventually, because this is the only blemish on this otherwise very, very clean vest. So we're going to take a look at that eventually. I think he's motivated to, without a doubt, get his name cleared, because he's also a holy warrior, which doesn't really have any character implications, but it does in this roleplay game. Now, by now, you may have noticed that some of these sigils are different from the last game. No, you're not dreaming. Let's go through them one by one. The Kingdom of Aquitaine has been altered. It has been altered significantly because I wanted to make sure that instead of the Aquitanian lion, we instead, of course, have our wolf. What this sigil now symbolizes is that Aquitaine itself is ruled by the faith, by the church that gave us this opportunity, by the good people of morality, but also firmly in the hands of the children, not just of Prince Vea. Prince Vea was just one of the descendants of the fella that saw the wolf, but that where this symbolism started. But rather, it is in our hands, and it ought to remain here. This is what this sigil screams. In the background, you can see the white line of faith that connects us to the lands being symbolized basically by the green here, which is one of the Basque colors. So the idea here is that Aquitaine is ruled in the name of God by our family for all times to come, and that our family is bound by our lands and by the Christian faith. I did like that a lot. I think that is pretty neat. It's a bit small, but honestly, I like it. It's just that in CK3, all of these icons turn out a bit small. Then in Italy, we have the Crown of Lombardy, of course, the Iron Crown, and underneath it, we have a sigil that shares both our wolf and our sigil right here, but also on the right side, the Italian eagle. This is to symbolize the symbiosis, the unification, not just of Aquitaine and Italy, but also of us and the Italian people. We are incredibly, incredibly different and distant, and yet we must be ruling together. We must exist together under the Iron Crown, which is, of course, at the end of the day, in our possession. But the idea here is that we must now live together in unity. And then, of course, we have our very own standard here. I would see this as a personal standard, basically, for King Filipe. I say this because obviously they would oftentimes, at least later on, not at this point in history, but in the later parts of history, they would take a look and do personal standards, even if they weren't a cadet branch or anything. And in this case, what we did here is, it symbolizes that we are the rightful rulers of Western Rome, or at least have the claim, because this is exactly what the Pope granted us in this moment, that we are the rulers of Italy, so that goes hand in hand there with the Iron Crown of Lombardy. Then it is of course our sigil, the white wolf, that protects us, that guides us, and shows that our ancestry goes through Prince Vea all the way into the old Lord Garcia of... what was it, Carcassonne. And then in the background, we have the color scheme of the Bonifazi dynasty, where our father comes from. And of course, our father played a major role in our life, so that is now represented inside of our position right here. No, actually, what is this? Oh, right, yeah, he technically was a vassal to King Asna, that is true. King Filipe Elisabeth is, with that, trying to reflect himself and his ancestry in his new position. He, of course, lays claim to Italy. It is his right, and that is what was fought for. That is what was given to him by the shepherd of Christianity himself, and that is also expressed in the Kingdom of Italy banner that he utilizes, and in the Kingdom of Aquitaine banner. I really hope that you like these as much as I do. I really like them. Person in the Discord loop, he prepared a bunch of these, you know, and obviously it's difficult to get this right because it's also small, so I basically made it a bit more simplified, and then here we are. I think that this really shows the story that we have been through. So this is him as a man. He knows what he needs to do to keep the realm unified, to be the shield and sword that was promised to the sword and to the Pope, and with that, of course, we have this symbolism on our banners as well. Let's talk about two separate issues. The first one being the core realm of Aquitaine, and then we talk about Italy. These are, of course, the member parts of our realm, and they couldn't be more different. They couldn't be more different in culture, in maybe even religion, quite frankly, because we have some heretics down here in Tuscany, but also in stability. So let's just start with Aquitaine and let's take a good look at this. Of course, we rule over our homelands here in the wonderful Duchy of Basconiaco, and then we also now are yet again in possession of Carcassonne. The question came up, where should be the capital of this realm? Should it be where we rule in Bayona, or should it be in Carcassonne? And I have to tell you, it's not an easy choice. When we look at development, you will see that Carcassonne, despite being on this important trade route, is a 7. La Pordie is a 14 at this point. Bordel even is a 9. Carcassonne is a backwater in comparison to where La Pordie and Bayona are today. That doesn't mean that we can't build up something else. For the moment, I will keep Carcassonne in my possession. For the moment, I may build it up as well, but I will not move. What we have to acknowledge, though, is that should we ever unify a larger area as the Western Roman Empire, Carcassonne is a better and easier to reach and easier to manage things from location than Bayona. It doesn't make any difference roleplay mechanically speaking, but roleplay-wise it does. So we might eventually move there, but for the moment this is just a stronghold that guarantees that we can respond in Aquitaine. Let's take a look at Aquitaine itself, of course. We have Prince Archbishop Aldebert, we have Prince Archbishop Raymond Berenguer of Tolosa, and these two are servants of the Catholic Church. This is, of course, very important. Our realm and the way we were influenced has always been strongly tied to the Catholic Church. Yes, of course, our witchcraft goes away from this principle, but the cooperation that happened under Bustrick, that happened under whoever he was, I can't recall his name, the original Archbishop under Garcia, that work that was put in there, that was so very important, couldn't have been done without the Catholic Church. The rebellion against the French, the reinstitution of Aquitaine, this, us retaking the lands from King Aslan the Dragon, all of these are deeply, deeply connected to the Church, and with that, we have taken the step of giving the Church some more control in Aquitaine. I think these are going to be fairly calm and quiet, unless you become a terrible ruler. It's a bit of a safeguard, I guess. We shall see. Then we have Auvergne. And I looked at this, and I'm not entirely certain. So I looked at this, right? And they got married, matrilineally, might I add, which means that the children of her dynasty, they got married on the 25th November, 1038. The Duchy of Provence was given to Philippe, so to the AI, in 1038, in April. I think the AI married them? Did I do this? I don't think I did this. I never interacted with her outside of accepting her call to arms, of course. Well, she accepted mine, I suppose. And now our son a second one if I'm not wrong, is married to her, to Duchess Veronica Girardet. Now I will tell you that is, gameplay-wise, of course, it's critical. That's a bit of an issue. But I have to tell you, Duchess Veronica has been a steadfast and dignified ally of us. She, when she was merely 18 years old, came to the aid of Duchess Elizabeth of Pasconiaco against the dragon. She stood up to a cannibal. Isn't that unbelievable? So the way I see this, I think that we have a great many sympathies for her that, you know, our character here can't really express in numbers because it doesn't work that way. She likes us as well, has a high opinion, of course, of our predecessor, and, I mean, I'm a witch, you know, but so be it. I mean, I don't know. She's also an adulterer, it has to be said. I don't know whether you are his kid. I assume so, because otherwise, you know, he would have given alarm. I have to assume that she stopped being an adulterer, at least, you know, with her old partner. What I'm going to do here is, as thanks for her aid and her assistance, obviously she is on the council, but I will grant her pardon for the adultery. It's a rough one, because ultimately she was cheating on my son. But if they worked it out, if they are still together, I mean, he's a powerful landowner in his own right. He could end this at any given moment, but doesn't. Then I will make it so that, you know, they will not be punishing one another. Or rather, she can't be punished by the crown, which is, of course, an important symbolism right there. So let's do that. That is fine. I think she will be stable. I think she will be a good part for the realm. Just inheritance-wise, we have to take a look at how that works out. Then we have Armagnac, now under the control of Duke Bermudo II Ladroné of Armagnac. He is of the Vizcaya dynasty, and it has been tumultuous. Count Ladron Bermudez took over after our brother, well, Elizabeth's brother, Duke Bermudo I, passed away. Then he got ousted by Countess Controda just 2 years after, and then later on, his son was installed yet again by Faction Amand. There's a lot of chaos in Armagnac, and this is difficult because of the trade route here, of course, that goes to the... This is the King's Road, right? This right here is the Kingly Road of Aquitaine. And I gotta tell you, Armagnac, if not for mechanical reasons, has to be pacified for roleplay reasons. Let's hope that Duke Bermudo II will remain in control. Who knows? I couldn't tell you. I just gotta tell you that... we might have to intervene if it goes sideways. Then, of course, we have Duchess Elizabeth Suaré of Barcelona as well. She's directly part of our house here. She is the son of Suero. Sorry, she is the daughter of Suero. And, I mean, I think we love her. I think we respect her. She's our dear niece. Of course, we will take care of her. Should there be any rebellions by the dastardly, for example, by him, the Comanche dynasty here, he has a claim on Valencia and Castilian. And then, oh, he actually doesn't have a claim. She doesn't have a claim. But Violon has, of course, betrayed us in the past. She's a Gelonesse. God, I wish they would just shut up. Well, either way, we're looking at a situation where if Duchess Elizabeth were in trouble, we would surely defend her. Then the last part of Aquitaine is Prince Martin Filipe, and, I mean, great kid. He's a witch, though. If we repent, we have to somehow look at Prince Martin and say, Prince Martin, listen, maybe you want to ask for forgiveness for your sins, because I'm not sure whether King Filipe could justify leaving inheritance to Prince Martin if he is still practicing these rites. We know that these rites are nothing to be worried about. But King Filipe knows that the world thinks differently. And he, as the potential Western Roman Emperor, needs to draw a clear line in the sand. So yeah, the way I see it, we might have to act against him. We see about that. That is a long-term thing. As far as Aquitaine is concerned, we have loyal vassals, we have good vassals, and we are in a position where merely internal fights within our vassals could be a problem that we might have to deal with. Of course, we lost pretty big chunks here, I would say, of Iberia. I mean, can't really do much about that. I don't think our head is in Iberia. I don't think we really care about that for the moment. So I'm going to ignore that as is. These are locals that basically took over. I would, of course, love to retake it, but yeah, again, I'm not going to concern myself until or unless the king really cared about this region, which currently he does not, because his realm is already splintered as is. Duke Lothair of Savoy is another topic that we need to consider. It looks like we feel very strongly about one another, but if you just take away the duchies, then, you know, we're actually both neutral towards one another, and I think we should take away the duchies when evaluating this, because he didn't rebel against us or anything. He just was a part of Lotharingia, rebelled against Lotharingia, and is now independent. If he rejoins us peacefully, I like that. He's a family member. The Bonifazi family, I mean, again, we have it on our very own crest. The Bonifazi family is family. So I would love to have him rejoin us. I would even be willing to offer him, of course, low feudal obligations, but we would need a higher opinion of one another. We'll see about that. Right now, I don't know where we're going with him. It could be war where we take back the duchies. It could simply be him rejoining. But this is, of course, a big topic. It concerns us. Now, what concerns us a bit more, in my opinion, and I think where King Filipe's immediate interest and attention will go to is Italy, because Italy is just such a big topic. At some point, once King Asna the Dragon, who I consider for roleplay purposes to basically be on the run, because he currently is still the king of Corsica Sardinia, but within the next couple of years, this will dissolve because he doesn't hold anything down there anymore. He just has these lands. And once that happens, he's just a count, and at that point, he's just basically on the run. But yeah, we ousted him. And Wieden, of course, all of this, making it rejoin, hopefully getting it to rejoin. It's a huge, huge topic, but Italy, right now, in this moment, is our property. We are the king of Italy. We have claimed it in the name of our dynasty, of our house, and so on. And yet, Corsica, Genoa, Istria, they are all gone. None of them serve us anymore. And this is a very interesting topic. Oh, this is actually convenient. I never thought about this. But by the fact that he is the Duke of Savoy right now, if he was the Duke of Barcelona... Wait, Aragon is not de jure a part of ours. Yeah. So, as long as he's Savoy or Languedoc, he doesn't have a de jure penalty, because he is de jure ours. Interesting. We might get him to join us for free. Anyway, the point is, as we conquered Italy, and I love that this happened, because as ugly as it looks, as we conquered Italy, obviously this occurred at the same time as a complete breakdown in central authority over Italy, and Italy had already rebelled in the past. It's no surprise, I think, to me or to anybody, that Italy is as splintered as it is right now. Restoring order in Italy is much more natural and important than restoring order over Savoy in terms of priorities. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because Savoy didn't rebel against us. Savoy merely got rid of Lorraine, right? Savoy might rejoin us. The Italians have always strived for independence, but it has to be pointed out, they aren't actually Italians. Gasconiera, French, Gasconiera, French, and French. This is an elite of rulers that was created and maintained and supported and protected by King Gégé of Italy, because he needed local rulers that he could trust. Local rulers of his own culture. Remember, King Gégé was French, I believe. So we're looking at a situation where we have the leftover of a foreign ruling class that now says, we are foreign both to the people but also to you, dear liege. So I think the way I see it, they will do everything in their power to attempt to be independent, and we have to prove to them that they need us to protect them. That they need us, or that they may very well fall victim to, the locals, to different faiths, to Bavaria, to maybe even the Pope. And the Pope doesn't play around. We would respect their privileges, of course, by offering them low vassalage obligations, but the Pope wouldn't do this. So our current task here, I think, is to work together with these French folks and hope to get as many as possible to comply. Now, let's start with something that definitely works. It's Corsica, it's our family, this is a house of the dynasty Bonifazi. I will offer her vassalage and it will work immediately. She understands this principle. I am saying I will largely leave you alone, but I can't leave you alone unless you at least swear fealty. I am the king of Italy and you ought to understand this. And she says, I understand. Then we have the Count of Genoa, and he understands the same thing. I love that they understand it, and in particular that it's these two understanding, because they are actually between our lands. I personally hold Milan, right? So we're looking at a situation where we are in control, except, of course, as much as we aren't in Milan in control because of the county control here. We are also as little in control of Italy as a whole in general. Very interesting situation. Ooh, you're a witch as well, Catalayut. Interesting. Now, we have Duke Mattei the Monster. He is French. He doesn't want to pledge allegiance. I mean, fair enough, ultimately, because he doesn't like us, A, and B, maybe even more importantly, he is quite powerful. Difference in your military strength. -2, max +20. He is a powerful lord. He was the leader of the Independence Rebellion. Here's how I'm going to deal with this. King Filipe will attempt to get Duke Mattei the Monster to see the light, to understand that cooperation is the only way forward, to understand that we need to stand as one. And despite us not liking one another, I mean, okay, a title claimant witch, I just have a desire for these duchies. I don't actually dislike him beyond the duchies, let's just discount this again. I will attempt to befriend him. I want to say, my mother and you have fought against one another so often. You stood against King Asner several times and in the end rebelled when he was a cannibal. But remember, my mother saw her misdoing. She saw that he was evil and she did everything in her power to kill him, to get him out. And with that, I will offer my hand in friendship to Duke Mate the monster. He has proven himself. And when it comes to the monster term, I don't think this is... let's just hope that he's not a cannibal, but no, he is somebody... Yeah, look at this. He has been pretty busy, I would say. I will try to become his friend to regain his loyalty this way, whereas the other two will simply accept it. We will, at the start of our reign as King Filipe, not focus on Savoy or Aquitaine at all. This is about Italy. If we want to be named Emperor in the West, we can't just be King of Italy in name only. We need to rule Italy. Now, the second thing that we need to acknowledge is that there's a bit of a heresy problem here. This is our own family, Bonifazi, meaning that we need to clean it up desperately. If we don't clean it up, there is no... we can't prevail, basically. There's a good chance, in my opinion, that if I don't get rid of this heresy, that the Pope may directly intervene. Mechanically, obviously that doesn't happen. Roleplay-wise, we could give him the land, right? I don't want to do this. I think our authority needs to be proven. I need to prove to myself, my people, and the Pope that I can be trusted as a king. And of course, I will immediately attempt to make him convert. Will he do it? I don't know. He is still very young. He's stupid. Maybe he is too energetic. But he is a craven. Let's hope that he cowers and that he will indeed give up. So this is the situation. Inside of our realm, we rule Aquitaine, we rule Italy. It is both marked inside of their respective coat of arms. Now, our coat of arms declares that we are the ruler of the Italians as well, that we at the very least lay claim to it. And we shall see where it goes. What we won't forget is that, of course, King Simon declared war against us. He went against our mother in a time where she was ousting a terrible, terrible man. That betrayal of us as a family, but that betrayal of the Catholic Church can't be forgotten. Ah, look at that Queen Nunila. I wonder if they are at all related here. Yeah, look at that. That's my wife's niece, right? This is my wife, and her niece is married to the King of France. We should have been brothers, King Simon. And instead, you betrayed us. I will remember this. This is very important to point out. France is the biggest threat to the shield and sword of Catholicism that currently exists, I think. The Umayyads haven't really threatened us much. Either way, we now know Aquitaine's situation. Aquitaine in its core looks stable. Savoy, of course, is a time of trouble, but Aquitaine itself quite stable, except for some internal duchy struggles that could occur. I'm a witch, I may want to get rid of that eventually. And in Italy, we have a campaign of first friendship. We want to reach out to them. And if that shouldn't be enough, we will see where that brings us. We will see where that brings us. I am a great fighter and an even better commander as far as I'm concerned. Let's take a look at Galicia. Of course, still ruled by Queen Elizabeth and King Gerardou. I think they will be fine. We had a death in the family, of course. King Vea passed away in Leon. And now it is split between Queen Beatrice Suere. She is, let me just take a look at this. This is the Libuliana dynasty. So she was normally married, meaning this would fall out of Belzetic again. Doesn't really concern me too much. And then here we have a Belzetic inheritance by King Martin VS. We actually, in one fell swoop, because the AI did it and we joined it, we took over as a family. And technically this doesn't count. Belzetic doesn't count for us, but our family took over the northern kingdoms in one fell swoop. Isn't that incredible? I still love that. Down here, not too much going on that concerns or bothers me. I mean, obviously this number here concerns me, but yeah, he hasn't acted against us and we have some buffer states there now. Other than that, right, I do have a sibling, and I want to take care of this right now. Suero. It's so funny, isn't it? Suero currently. So, he was ousted by our mother, of course. He was disinherited. We know the truth. Everybody in the world knows that he tried to murder her, and that he tried to seduce her. I have to tell you, I can't have a brother like him. An absolute maniac, a sadist, running around in the world. He is currently technically exiled, but he's exiled in Savoy, which yet again I mean, makes me think Savoy really needs to be added one way or another long-term into our realm as well. I will invite him to our court. I will invite him. And I will ask him to take the vows. If he's willing to do it, I won't act against him in any way going forward. But he needs to take the vows, which, of course, gets rid of any claims that he could possibly have on any of our realms. He would still have the claims here, but he couldn't push any of them because he would be a monk. We'll take care of this. At least I would hope so, right? We're not going to do any of the court events. We're going to do that tomorrow. And we're going to not set our court grander. The one thing that I do want to bring up is that I gave myself the Iron Crown of Lombardy. Why did I do this? In 867 in the start date, there is no Iron Crown. But the Iron Crown existed and was in possession of historical people. In 1066, the Iron Crown is rightfully in possession of the Emperor of the Romans in the West, which is the HRE. So I was like, King Guiget should have had this crown. Now we have it. Let's say we King Guiget had it, gave it to Asna, we took it from Asna when we took Carcassonne, and now we display this crown. This crown is more important than anything else, because it symbolizes that we aren't just Aquitaine, we aren't just a backwater isolated from something, no. It symbolizes that we have a claim, a right, and a desire to rule all of Italy. So I will safeguard that crown literally with my life. Right, I also would like to point out, again with the Pope, he likes us, we like him, we might try to befriend him eventually. I think this could be the only way that we really leave witchcraft behind, and I can see it with this character. This character cares more about, being a good king, about being in a position where he isn't misunderstood, than he cares about the rights of, and traditions of his people. Right, with that, Aquitaine and Italy, I think, are explained. Obviously, there's a lot going on in this world, but let's talk about the Struggle of the Rus. So, there is a new mechanic present in this save that I created that is basically just a custom and fairly basic, but also fairly, it does what it needs to do, basically. A struggle mechanic that I adapted from the Iberian struggle. This struggle is present right here in the general area of the Rus. You can see it right here. It goes all the way up from Narva, of course, down to Kiev. I left out the steps because in this save, these steps are extraordinarily step-ish. They are very much indeed nomads. But other than that, we now have a struggle right here. And this struggle is important because I looked at the East and I said to myself, listen, we have this great mod, and I know that, for some like it, most people, I think, really like it, but some people dislike it, I understand that, but we have this mod that basically every now and again fires an event and asks Asatru rulers in Scandinavia, hey, hello Asatru ruler, how are you doing? Would you like to turn Catholic? And they have a choice whether they say yes or no. It is based on some factors, whether they are coastal, whether they already have Catholic liege, a Catholic vassal, whether they are Catholic provinces, whether they are zealous. If they're zealous, they will always say no. But basically, it does this thing, and it does it dynamically. I wish it actually, was, I don't know, the King of Germany sending a missionary to Scandinavia and then they convert, but that is sadly not in the game. That is what it is. Anyway, this mod that we were using here the entire time is really good because it makes it so that, you get a gradual move towards Catholicism here rather than one and off. It's just, oh yeah, I'm Catholic now, boom, it's done. And it makes it so that as they turn Catholic, they actually have a chance for survival. What do I mean? What I mean is that if you look at this, you will very quickly notice, I think, that they are falling behind to an insane degree because their cultural head is tribal, meaning they can't actually advance to the next stage. And if they can't advance to the next stage, they will become basically useless. And that sucks. That is why I fundamentally believe that until we have proper missionary work in the game as a mechanic, we should always turn this Catholic or any other religion really, just so that they can then advance. We do it in a fairly dynamic way, in a fairly understandable way, I think, here, as I said, and many of them have turned Catholic, some others have not. It gives them a fighting chance. If you don't do it, you basically just get a region that can't intervene anywhere anymore because they have garbage troops and they can't interact with anybody because they are, of course, Asatru and won't marry into Catholic houses. There will never be an interesting war between the King of Norway, who is Catholic, and the King of England over who should be the King of England, because none of them will ever vote for each other, to be the king or marry into each other's houses, and that is just boring. I both hate that they technologically fall behind, and I dislike that they are cut off from the rest of the world that interacts with one another because of this reason. So, since this is fixed in this mod with Scandinavia Christianizes, I said to myself, you know what, there's another region in this world that is in the same location that should be long Christian, but isn't because there is no missionary mechanic. I'm of course talking about both the Polish area right here, but also about the general area of the Kievan Rus in this period. And I gotta tell you, I thought about this for quite some time, and I changed something. I did two things that are very important to point out. I want you to know about this because there will be some exciting stuff happening here, even though, of course, we are not present there. Now, the first thing I did was, I basically took the Scandinavia Christianizers mod and I set it up in a way where it would drop events on Poland, or, well, on the general area here, Pomerania and Poland, but also on the Kievan Rus. I believe it should be roughly this area. I'm not sure whether it's exactly this area, but it should be roughly this area. And if you are in this location and you are Slovianskan, which has been eaten up, you can see this. There are Varangians here, there are the Kuzerite here, the Ukunosko are here. But if you are Slovianskan and you are threatened from all sides, you get an event, at some point, you might get an event, I should say it's random of course, that says, hey, how you doing? Would you like to become Catholic, Orthodox, Ashari, or would you like to keep your faith? And the character will decide, based on fairly similar reasons to how Scandinavia Christianizes. So, for example, do you border a realm that is Catholic? Is one of your vassals? Is your liege? Are they Catholic? Are they Orthodox? Are they Muslim? Do you drink beer? If you're a drunkard, for example, then you wouldn't be in a position where you would join Ashari, right? Are you zealous? Then you won't change your faith at all, of course. So, basically, there are going to be events in the next, 50 years, regularly, I think every 10 years or so, that will ask, in this area, randomly chosen characters of the Slovianskan faith, hey buddy, how you doing? Would you like to convert? And if so, to what, right? I've run so many test runs with this, and I love how it works out. Poland, since it borders Catholic people, most of the time primarily turns Catholic, but of course it could also turn Orthodox. I've seen it, at least a few rulers do that regularly. And then over here you get largely Orthodoxy, because I've weighted it a bit more towards Orthodoxy, because the Orthodox Church would have more missionaries that they could send, there's more influence there, but also primarily they don't border Catholic folks. Bordering Catholic folks, of course, gives you a lot of influence towards that decision, towards that option in that event, I should say. So this is something that will happen over the next 50 years. And then I said to myself, wait a minute, but what we're doing there is basically a struggle. It's a foreign faith, foreign culture that arrives and says, I will establish myself. Now the old ways, they are gone. Or the heathens, they must fall. And I said, why not just make a full struggle around it, huh? This struggle, it's not fully localized. Don't sweat that too much. You can see it right here. We don't need a description because I'm never going to release this mod, okay? But basically, what the struggle does, the struggle will encourage converting to whatever local culture or religion exists. So this will largely turn into local faiths as well, right? And they will then attempt to fight over the land with, of course, the unique CBs, which, you know, I largely adapted from the Iberian struggle. The positive impact here is that, for example, Grand Princess Aranka would regularly do nothing because it is far too difficult to convert to Kuzerite in this region. With the struggle on, they can actually establish a kingdom, and they should, because they've been here for quite some time in Kiev. Well, actually, I mean, okay, they didn't have the kingdom of Kiev, but they were ruling here via Khazaria, right? So, what we will get here, and Asatru, for example, is, you can see it right here, it's also an involved faith. They will try to defend their faith. And whenever somebody converts, whenever somebody turns, it leads to animosity. It leads to differences. It leads to war, or it could potentially lead to cooperation. They could intermarry, for example, if they go to conciliation, that sort of thing. I have seen, in the test runs that I did with this mod on, a general feudalization of the south, a general orthodoxy or Catholicism or mixed result in all of this area. And then I've seen a general consolidation of the realms, because once they're feudal, they have a better time to survive, a better chance at survival. And that is important, because at any given point, Kiev, for example, under Grand Princess Aranka of Kiev, I guess, would be in a position of, for example, cooperating with Bavaria. All of a sudden, they are a part of the actual geopolitics of the situation rather than just falling apart. On the other hand, of course, we have the Eesti Empire here, for example, this one as well, King Hjalmar Sölveson, and they will, in all likelihood, always keep their faith, their pagan faith, meaning that they are then pitted against one another. Technically, the struggle could even be ended. It is all correctly coded. You can see it right here. If you keep all your stuff, if you are in a position where you, for example, you hold the most important duchies here, this is all done, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody will end it here. It's just too complex. Where I'm coming from is, this struggle will lead to the either Christianization or Islamification of these areas and create much more stable, much more religiously and culturally aggressive empires or cooperative empires, should they go into the conciliation faith. I've seen both happen. That should mix this region up far beyond everybody's just tribal, just hanging out. Nobody can do anything. It should lead to, for example, Poland becoming a credible opponent to Wielka Morawa. Becoming an opponent that can say, we are feudalized, we are Catholic, we have a right to these lands, and we will oust you. I hope that you are as excited for that as I am, because this is honestly, I've done the test games, and I love the outcomes so much. You regularly see like that this down here turns Cruiser right, then you have a strong orthodoxy right here, with the Ukonosko holding on to there, and of course to the Baltic region. You can see different cultures forming. For example, Ruthenian oftentimes splits off in this region right there. And yeah, you can see very, very different things happen with government as well, where, you know, then you get the actual feudalization here, rather than everybody stays tribal until 1200, and then they're so far behind that they don't matter at all. You see the court languages of the Orthodox, for example, usually being Greek, whereas the other ones might speak, the Catholic ones might speak local languages. I want to see all that because it makes the world all the more richer. Oh, and yeah, by the way, Sultan Al-Muazzam Chagri, the death dealer of the Seljuk Empire, still on his way to conquer. Listen, this was a long video, and I think we talked enough. We learned everything there is to learn about Aquitaine, about Italy, and about the struggle. And I invite you to return tomorrow when we return and actually unpose the game. Can you believe that? Unposing the game in this economy. For the moment, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Alligator.